What would you do if the life you carefully built was shattered by a single revelation? Imagine discovering that the one person you love the most had been hiding a life-changing secret for years. How would you respond? Could you forgive? Or would the betrayal haunt you forever? Today, we're unfolding a gripping tale of love, heartbreak, and redemption. It's the story of Daniel Grant, a self-made millionaire who believed he had everything under control until a shocking truth pulled him back to a past he thought he had left behind. A truth that revealed his ex-fiancée, Emma, had been raising a child in secret, and that child was his. We've all had moments where life throws us an unexpected curveball, where secrets emerge, forcing us to reevaluate everything we thought we knew. Daniel's story is a testament to the complexities of love, the weight of choices, and the power of second chances. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest riches in life aren't found in wealth, but in the people we cherish. Meet Daniel Grant, a self-made millionaire who rose from humble beginnings to build an empire in real estate. Known for his sharp business acumen and charisma, Daniel appeared to have it all: wealth, power, and the respect of his peers. But beneath his polished exterior was a scar that never truly healed. Emma Hayes, the love of his life. Emma and Daniel were inseparable during their younger years, bound by a connection so deep that everyone believed they were destined to spend their lives together. Emma, a compassionate and driven woman, had dreams of her own. But as Daniel's career began to take off, his ambition created a rift between them. Long hours, missed dinners, and endless business trips left Emma feeling like she was no longer a priority. The breaking point came when Daniel received an opportunity to expand his empire overseas. Emma, unable to uproot her life and compromise her dreams, made the heartbreaking decision to part ways. The two went their separate ways, vowing to move on, though neither could truly forget the love they once shared. Fast forward a decade, and Daniel's world now exudes opulence. He resides in a penthouse overlooking the city skyline, with floor-to-ceiling windows that frame his success. His days are filled with high-stakes meetings, lavish parties, and the constant buzz of ambition. To everyone else, Daniel is the epitome of success, but deep down, he carries a lingering emptiness he cannot explain. Meanwhile, Emma lives in a quiet, picturesque town far removed from the chaos of Daniel's life. She runs a small art studio, pouring her heart into every painting she creates. Her modest home is filled with warmth and laughter, thanks to her 9-year-old son, Lucas. Emma has worked tirelessly to provide Lucas with a loving and stable upbringing, shielding him from the struggles of being a single parent. Despite their vastly different worlds, Emma often wonders about Daniel. She sometimes catches herself reminiscing about their time together, but she quickly shakes off the thoughts, focusing instead on the life she's built for her and Lucas. Their paths, seemingly worlds apart, are about to collide in the most unexpected way. One evening, as Daniel sifts through his mail, a plain envelope catches his eye. Inside is a letter from someone he doesn't recognize, but its contents leave him reeling. The letter claims that he is the father of a child, a boy named Lucas. Confusion and disbelief flood Daniel's mind. Could this be true? Why would Emma hide something so monumental from him? Memories of their past come rushing back, each moment layered with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel decides to track down Emma. His journey takes him to the quaint town where she lives, a stark contrast to his usual surroundings. As he watches her from afar, he notices her radiant smile as she interacts with Lucas, a boy who, to Daniel's astonishment, bears a striking resemblance to himself. The revelation shakes him to his core. Questions swirl in his mind. How could Emma keep such a secret? What role does he now play in Lucas's life? And most importantly, is there any way to repair the broken trust between them? Shocked and confused, Daniel sat in his office, staring at the letter that had upended his entire existence. His hands trembled as he reread the words, hoping that somehow he had misunderstood. A child? His child? The idea seemed impossible, and yet the description and timeline made sense. Memories of Emma came flooding back, each one laced with regret and longing. He had always believed their breakup was necessary, a sacrifice for the greater good of his career. But now he couldn't help but wonder if he had been too blind, too selfish, to see what truly mattered. There was only one way to know the truth. He had to find Emma. With little hesitation, Daniel cleared his schedule, chartered a flight to the quiet town where the letter was postmarked, and prepared himself for the confrontation that could forever change his life. As Daniel drove through the winding roads of the countryside, the luxury of his sleek black car felt out of place against the simplicity of the surroundings. The closer he got, the heavier his heart felt. What would he say to Emma? What if she denied it? And more importantly, what would he say to the child? When Daniel arrived at Emma's modest home, his confidence wavered. The charming little house, surrounded by a garden of vibrant flowers, seemed like a world away from his own. He hesitated at the gate, unsure if he had the right to disrupt the life Emma had built for herself and possibly for their child. But his questions needed answers. Gathering his courage, he knocked on the door. Moments later, Emma appeared, her face paling as she locked eyes with him. "You," she whispered, her voice a mixture of shock and pain. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," Daniel said, his voice firm but tinged with desperation. "It's about Lucas." At the mention of the boy's name, Emma's eyes widened. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her, as though shielding the child from the man who had appeared out of nowhere. "You have no right to be here," Emma said, her tone sharp. "You walked away from my life years ago. Daniel, whatever you think you're here for, it's too late." Daniel's chest tightened. "Emma, please. If he's my son, I deserve to know the truth." Behind the door, Lucas peeked out, his piercing eyes meeting Daniel's for the briefest moment. It was like looking into a mirror of his younger self. The resemblance was undeniable. And yet, the boy quickly retreated, unsure of the stranger at their doorstep. Emma folded her arms, her stance unwavering. "You don't get to waltz in here and claim something you walked away from, Daniel. Lucas doesn't know you, and I won't let you hurt him." Her words stung, but Daniel couldn't back down. "I made mistakes," he admitted, "but if he's my son, I need to make things right. Please, Emma, just let me talk to you." Reluctantly, Emma agreed to meet him at the park later that evening, away from Lucas's watchful eyes. But her expression made it clear she wasn't ready to forgive him. That evening, Daniel sat on a bench at the park, waiting for Emma to arrive. As he watched families playing with their children, he felt a pang of envy and regret. He couldn't help but wonder what his life would have been like if he had chosen Emma over his career. When Emma finally arrived, she wasted no time with pleasantries. "Lucas is my world," she said, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "I've done everything to give him a good life. I didn't tell you because I didn't think you wanted this life." Daniel looked down, guilt washing over him. "I didn't know," he said softly. "If I had, maybe things would have been different." "Maybe," Emma replied, her tone bittersweet. "But that's not the reality we're living in." Over the next few days, Daniel found ways to observe Lucas from a distance. He saw glimpses of himself in the boy, the same curious eyes, the same mischievous grin. It was undeniable. Lucas was his son. Daniel began to realize that this wasn't just about discovering he had a child. It was about facing the consequences of his choices and the relationships he had neglected in his pursuit of success. One day, as Lucas played soccer in the park, Daniel gathered the courage to approach him. The boy eyed him cautiously, clutching the ball to his chest. "Hi, Lucas," Daniel said gently. I'm a friend of your mom's." Lucas tilted his head, clearly skeptical. "You don't look like one of her friends," he said bluntly. Daniel chuckled, surprised by the boy's honesty. "I guess I don't, but maybe we could get to know each other." Though hesitant, Lucas eventually allowed Daniel to join in his game. For the first time, Daniel felt a glimmer of hope. It was a small step, but it was a start. The days following Daniel's initial reunion with Emma and Lucas were tense, filled with unspoken words and lingering questions. Emma remained distant, her walls firmly in place, while Lucas warmed up to Daniel only in small, fleeting moments. Daniel, however, refused to give up. One evening, a sudden storm rolled into the quiet town. The rain hammered against the windows of Emma's modest home as Daniel stood on her porch, drenched but resolute. He knocked, his heart pounding as if mirroring the storm outside. Emma opened the door, her expression a mixture of frustration and concern. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "I can't leave," he said, his voice trembling. "Not until I understand why you kept him a secret. I deserve to know the truth." For a moment, Emma hesitated, but the storm outside mirrored the emotions brewing within her. Finally, she stepped aside and let him in. They sat in the small living room, the room dimly lit by a single lamp. The silence between them was heavy, until Emma finally spoke. "You want to know why?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because I tried to tell you. I tried to reach out, Daniel, but you were too busy chasing your dreams to notice. Every time I thought about calling, I remembered how little space there was in your life for me, let alone a child." Daniel's chest tightened as her words sank in. "You think I wouldn't have cared?" he asked, his voice breaking. "That I would have turned my back on you if I had known?" Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she held her composure. "I don't know, Daniel, but I wasn't willing to take that risk, not for Lucas. I didn't want him to feel like an afterthought in your life." The words hit Daniel like a punch to the gut. He realized how his ambition, his relentless pursuit of success, had blinded him to what truly mattered. He had left Emma to fend for herself, never once looking back to see what he might have left behind. The storm outside grew fiercer as emotions boiled over in the room. Emma's voice cracked as she continued, years of pain spilling out. "Do you know how hard it was, Daniel? To raise him on my own? To answer his questions about why he didn't have a dad like the other kids? I had to make up stories to protect him because I didn't want him to feel unwanted." Daniel's heart shattered. He couldn't stop the tears that welled up in his eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you, Emma. I thought I was doing the right thing by walking away, but now I see how wrong I was. I miss so much of your life, of his life, and I can't get that time back." From the hallway, a small voice interrupted the tension. "Mom." Lucas stood there, his wide eyes filled with confusion. "Why are you crying?" Emma wiped her tears quickly and motioned for Lucas to come closer. As the boy approached, Daniel knelt to his level, his own tears streaming down his face. "Lucas," Daniel said gently, his voice shaking, "I want you to know something. I didn't know about you before now, but if I had, I would have done everything to be here for you. I promise. I'm going to make things right." Lucas looked between his mother and the man kneeling before him. "Are you my dad?" he asked, his voice soft and unsure. The question pierced through Daniel like an arrow. "Yes," he whispered, "I am. And I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner." The boy hesitated for a moment before surprising Daniel by wrapping his small arms around him. "It's okay," Lucas said simply. "You're here now." The embrace broke the dam of emotions for both Daniel and Emma. It was the first glimmer of hope, the first step toward healing the wounds that had festered for years. That night, after Lucas had fallen asleep, Daniel and Emma sat at the kitchen table, the storm outside finally beginning to subside. "I can't change the past," Daniel said, his voice filled with resolve. "But I can change the future. I want to be here for Lucas, for you. Whatever it takes, I'm willing to do it." Emma looked at him skeptically. "Words are easy, Daniel. Actions are what matter." "I know," he said, "and I'll prove it to you. I don't expect you to trust me right away, but I'm not going anywhere. Lucas deserves to know his father, and I want to be the kind of father he can be proud of." The next morning, Daniel began his journey of making amends. He started small, offering to help Emma with chores around the house and spending time with Lucas in the ways the boy felt comfortable. He joined him in his soccer games, read bedtime stories, and listened to his dreams and fears. But it wasn't just about Lucas. Daniel knew he had to rebuild Emma's trust, brick by brick. He respected her boundaries, showed up consistently, and took the time to truly understand the sacrifices she had made. One evening, as they watched Lucas kick a ball around the yard, Emma turned to Daniel. "You're different," she admitted. The Daniel I knew back then wouldn't have done any of this. I had to lose everything to realize what I had, he said. And I won't make that mistake again. For the first time, Emma allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, Daniel could be the man she and Lucas needed him to be. Daniel returned to the city with a new perspective on life. The endless board meetings, relentless phone calls, and cutthroat deals that once defined his existence now felt hollow. He realized that his success was meaningless if it came at the cost of missing out on the people who mattered most. Determined to prioritize his newfound family, Daniel made bold changes. He stepped back from his business, delegating responsibilities to trusted team members and restructuring his schedule to create time for Emma and Lucas. This wasn't easy for a man who once thrived on control, but Daniel knew it was necessary. He spent weekends driving to the small town, immersing himself in the life Emma and Lucas had built. He joined Lucas at soccer practice, where he stood on the sidelines cheering louder than any other parent. He helped Emma in her bakery, clumsily rolling dough and laughing when his attempts at frosting cupcakes turned into a mess. These small, seemingly mundane moments became the foundation of his transformation. One afternoon, Lucas shyly asked, "Dad, do you know how to fish?" Daniel chuckled. "I don't, but if you teach me, I'll give it a try." The following weekend, they went to a nearby lake, poles in hand. Lucas, with the enthusiasm of a seasoned fisherman, instructed Daniel on the basics. They spent hours casting lines and sharing stories. For the first time, Daniel felt a genuine connection with his son, a bond built not on gifts or promises, but on shared experiences and time. Despite his efforts, the road to rebuilding trust wasn't without challenges. One evening, as Daniel tucked Lucas into bed, the boy looked up at him with wide, searching eyes. "Are you going to leave us again?" Lucas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question pierced through Daniel's heart. He knelt beside the bed, meeting his son's gaze. "Lucas, I made a mistake before, a big one. But I promise you I'm not going anywhere. I'll always be here for you, no matter what." Though Lucas nodded, the doubt in his eyes lingered, and Daniel knew it would take more than words to ease his son's fears. Emma, too, struggled to let her guard down. She had spent years protecting herself and Lucas from disappointment, and while she saw Daniel's efforts, her walls remained firmly in place. "I want to believe you've changed," Emma admitted one evening as they sat on the porch after Lucas had gone to bed. "But I'm scared, Daniel. Scared that this is temporary. That you'll realize this isn't the life you want and leave again." Daniel reached for her hand, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I understand why you feel that way, Emma. And I don't blame you. But I'm not the same man I was back then. I've learned what truly matters, and it's you and Lucas. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that to you, if that's what it takes." Daniel's consistent efforts began to make a difference. Slowly but surely, Lucas started to trust him. They built a morning routine together, sharing breakfast, walking to school, and talking about Lucas's dreams of becoming an astronaut. One evening, after a particularly successful soccer game, Lucas ran into Daniel's arms. "Did you see that goal, Dad?" he exclaimed, his face beaming with pride. "I saw it. Champ," Daniel said, lifting him into the air. "You were amazing out there." Moments like these filled Daniel's heart with a sense of completeness he had never experienced before. For the first time, he felt whole, not because of his wealth or achievements, but because of the love he was nurturing with his son. Emma, too, began to soften. One night, as they closed the bakery together, she turned to Daniel with a faint smile. "You're really trying, aren't you?" He looked at her, his expression serious. "I'm not trying, Emma. I'm doing. Because you and Lucas are worth everything." Her smile grew, and for the first time in years, it carried a glimmer of the love they once shared. As the days turned into weeks, Daniel's confidence grew. He was no longer the man who buried himself in work to avoid emotions. He was present, engaged, and determined to be the father and partner he had failed to be in the past. Months passed, and life for Daniel, Emma, and Lucas began to settle into a beautiful rhythm. They weren't without their challenges. There were still moments of doubt, misunderstandings, and adjustments. But they were a family now, bound by love and trust. One sunny afternoon, the three of them were at the park, enjoying a picnic under a canopy of trees. Lucas darted across the grass, his laughter echoing through the air as he played with a kite Daniel had helped him build. Emma watched with a smile, her heart lighter than it had been in years. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Emma asked, turning to Daniel. He looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Honestly, no, but I'm so glad we did." Emma reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. In that moment, all the pain and hardships they had endured felt worth it. They had found their way back to each other, not as the people they once were, but as stronger, more understanding versions of themselves. For Lucas, life had transformed in ways he couldn't have imagined. He no longer felt the void of an absent father. Instead, he had a dad who showed up for him at soccer games, school plays, and quiet nights at home. The bond they shared was unshakable, built on love and time. Daniel's journey wasn't just about reconnecting with his family. It was about rediscovering himself. He realized that success wasn't measured in wealth or accolades, but in the relationships that gave life meaning. Emma, too, learned the power of forgiveness. Letting go of the hurt Daniel had caused wasn't easy, but it allowed her to make room for love and healing. For Lucas, the experience taught him about the strength of family and the importance of second chances. He saw firsthand that people could change and that love could bridge even the deepest divides. Their story was a reminder of what truly matters in life: the people who stand by you, the courage to confront the past, and the willingness to start anew. To the audience, this story poses an important question. How often do we let pride, fear, or misunderstandings keep us from the relationships that matter most? It's never too late to make amends, to reach out, and to choose love over resentment. So ask yourself, is there someone in your life who deserves a second chance? A relationship worth rebuilding, even if it feels difficult or uncertain. Don't wait for fate to intervene. Take the first step today. As the saying goes, it's not what we have in life, but who we have in our lives that truly matters. Daniel's story is a testament to the power of forgiveness, love, and resilience. It reminds us that while mistakes are inevitable, they don't have to define us. With effort and sincerity, we can heal wounds, rebuild trust, and create a future filled with joy and connection. Let this story inspire you to cherish the people who matter most. Life is too short to hold on to grudges or let pride stand in the way of happiness. Embrace second chances, and remember, the best stories are the ones we write together.